Hey everybody, today we're going to do a little exercise in Illustrator and make a simple logo which will help you review some of the techniques that you've been exploring. So we're going to open Illustrator up here. Wanted to start from the very beginning in case you were confused about how to start a new document. So we're going to go to Create New over here on the left. Click Create New. This window should pop up for you. And it's given me some presets for starting a brand new document. It should be a blank canvas is what you're going for. It's given me the option over here on the right to set up a vertical or horizontal window, and it's going to be set to pixels. I usually switch that to inches, which makes it a little bit easier to comprehend. So I'm going to set my screen for let's just say 20 by 20. Let's keep it simple. 20 by 20 inches. It really can be whatever you want for this particular exercise. We're going to hit Create New. Give it a second. This window pops up and we have our blank canvas to work with. In Photoshop, you generally start with an image, right? But in Illustrator, you start with a blank canvas. Of course, we've got our navigator popped up over here, which allows us to click in and out of the window here. I like to have the navigator open. If that's ever not there, remember you can always go up to Window. You can scroll down to Navigator, and that'll bring that back up. Okay. So what we're going to do today is a little fun exercise on creating a logo. Everybody's going to create the same logo, and we're going to pretend like we're doing a logo for a publishing company or a writer. And we're going to make a simple pencil logo. One of the things I like to start with for this particular assignment is we go to View, and we're going to do Show Grid. And that's just going to let you know that if you're doing a project that has really precise measurements, you can have the option to do a grid icon on the screen. That's not something that's going to print. So this is just for work purposes. The grid does not also, if you save this as a PDF, it's not going to save the grid as well. It's just a work document tool, essentially. Okay, but we're going to do a little bit of measurement today, and so this is going to help us to do that. Okay, we're going to create a simple pencil logo. Now, how do we start with that? Well, let's go ahead and go over to our shape tool, which we've talked about before. We're going to select the rectangle tool. That's the fifth tool down here on the left. We have tools underneath it as well. I'm going to double click the fill icon, and I'm going to make my pencil that classic kind of mustardy yellow pencil that we always had when we were in elementary school. Okay, now I'm going to click. I'm paying attention to my grid here, although I can always change it. I'm going to click, hold down, and drag. I'm going to make my pencil 4 units across. Okay. Now I want my black line, which is called the stroke. By the way, every object is made up of the fill and the stroke. The fill is the color, and the stroke is the black outline or whatever color the outline is. I want that to be a little bit thicker, so I'm going to go up on my toolbox bar here. It's set to 1 point stroke, and I'm just going to click that up. And for my logo, I'm going to do, well, it's a little thick. Let's settle for me on 8 point stroke width there. Okay. So we're now creating the body of the pencil. Okay, so I want to add in the lines that are in a pencil. You know how a pencil has the gripping groove on it. So what I want to do is now add those lines in, and this is where the grid is going to come in handy. If I go over to my tools again, underneath the rectangle tool is a tool called the line segment tool, if you can see that. If you hold that down, hold the tool down, click down, hold down, you're going to see line segment tool as your last option there. So I'm going to go into the window of where my rectangle is, and I'm going to try to line my cursor up with that grid unit. I'm going to click, hold down, and drag, and I'm just going to try to line up the grid markings from top to bottom. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 markings across, as you can see. I'm going to click, hold down, drag, and one more time I'm going to go to click, hold down, and drag, and I've got now my 4 bars, and this is my pencil. It's looking a little bit squat, so I'm going to actually do an audible here, and I'm going to make my pencil a little bit thin because I need to put the eraser on top and the point down here at the bottom. So for your exercise, your pencil can be any shape you want as long as you have the lines in there. It doesn't matter to me. But at this point, if you want to do this step, you can. All I'm going to simply do is click, hold down, and drag, and select the whole pencil here so that I can move that as one object. Okay, let me go to Edit, Undo real fast to show you something. If I just go in and click and drag, I've still got something that's made of different pieces, right? That's a problem if you want the object to be all one unit. So that's why I clicked, I held down, and I dragged over the entire pencil. That allows me to select the whole thing, and I can actually even now go to my edge and resize this whole thing. If I hold my cursor over the edge, see how I get like a little boomerang, and then I get like a double arrow line there, if you can see that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is get that double arrow line, click, and smush my pencil down a little bit to give it more of a long and lean pencil look. Okay, and I can move it now wherever I want. I don't really need the grid anymore. That was just to measure the pencil markings. Okay, and what you can do is if you want this whole thing to remain a single object, you can go up to Object at the top of the screen on the menu bar. If you can see my mouse hovering around there, Object, scroll down to Group. If everybody can see that, see where I'm selecting Group. Now I can click off of it, click back on it, and it's all one individual unit, which is a huge help if I'm trying to work with a lot of different objects to be able to start to group things and ungroup things. Okay. If you ever want to ungroup it, you can do that, by the way. You just go back up to Object and then Ungroup. Okay? Well, you're not going to need to ungroup this, but just wanted to let you know that that's an option for you. Okay, so what we're going to do next is we're going to add on the eraser to the top of the pencil. And you've probably think about how the pencil has the pink eraser on top, and it's held together by those little metal bands. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to add on those 3 little metal bands and then the pink eraser that can go on top of that. Okay? So first of all, let's go to our shape tools again. And let's select the rectangle tool. We're going to click, hold down, and drag, and fit that eraser on top of the pencil. Now, obviously, I need to double click, change the color a little bit. Let's see if we can select something in the pink family here. It doesn't look too, I don't know. Use your preference. Let's go back up to the top end of my reds. There Everybody's is going to be a little different. That's okay. So you can make your eraser whatever color you want. Okay, so I've drawn the eraser there now. Now I'm going to go in and I'm going to add in my metal bands. Now this needs to be a little bit bigger. So we're going to click, hold down, and drag. I'm going to draw one of my metal bands. I'm going to double click my color picker again. I'm going to go to a gray silver color. Okay. Now I can try to redraw that 2 more times, but I think it's going to work better because I want it to be perfect if I actually just copy and paste the metal band 2 more times and then put it on top of the eraser. Okay. So just like if you've used Photoshop, if you hold down the Option key, you should have a double arrow that pops up. Can you see that? Right over my metal band, when I hold Option down, I'm not clicking anything. Just holding Option down, I'm seeing a little black and a white arrow. Okay, if you hold that down, then you click on your mouse and then you drag, it makes a copy of the object. Okay? If you can't remember that and you're working in the future, just simply go to Edit, Copy, Edit, Paste, and it achieves the same thing. It just drops another one of those objects down. Okay? So now I've got my pink eraser. I've got my 3 metal bands. I'm going to adjust my eraser a little bit there. Okay? Next step, you probably figured out, we need to put the sharp end of the pencil down here at the bottom. So what we're going to do, we're going to go back up to our shape tools, and I'm looking for a triangle. I don't see a triangle, do you? Nope, no triangle there. Okay, well, that's okay, because if you remember back to a previous discussion, the star tool can become a triangle tool. So I'm going to select the star tool, moving my cursor inside the work window here. I'm going to click, and if I don't click, hold, and drag, and I just click down on the screen, it allows me to select the number of points that I need. Okay, so we need 3. So a 3-pointed star is a triangle. I select that, and then a triangle pops up. I can go over to my Move tool. I can make that perfect triangle into a point. I can drag it down here. I can adjust my cursor to get it the way I want it. We want it to be perfect. Why not? I'm actually going to even use my arrow tools. It may be kind of hard to see, but can you see how it's just moving in little tiny unit increments? That's because I'm pushing down the arrows, the left and right arrows on my keyboard. And that lets me move it in a way that I could probably not do with just using my mouse. Okay, so now I've got the point end of my pencil. We obviously need to go with a different color for that. So I'm going to get rid of the pink. I'm going to go to something that's a little bit more in the family of a wood grain, but I'm going to go lighter than the body of the pencil because I want it to be separated from that, differentiated from that. Okay. Now the last step we need for our pencil is we need to add the black graphite tip to the pencil. So I'm going to actually do the same thing here that I did with the bands of the metal. Rather than try to redraw that triangle, which I guess I could do, I'm going to hold down the Option key. I'm going to click and drag out, and I'm going to make a duplicate version of my pencil tip. So I can hold Shift down now. By holding Shift down, moving my cursor to the edge of that shape, I can drag and get it to a smaller size, but the proportion stays the same. So when you hold Shift, that's the whole point of that. So I can go in and out, and the proportion doesn't change and then it should fit perfectly onto the pencil icon like that. Okay, so let's select that. I want to change my graphite pencil tip to black, and there's our simple geometric pencil logo. Okay, so hopefully you're at this point. If you need to rewind and you missed something, feel free to do that. We're going to do one more step here to make it into an actual final logo. It's actually going to review something that we've talked about before. And I need to make this smaller. So I'm going to click, hold down, and drag over the screen. I'm going to make my entire pencil a little bit smaller just to give me some more workspace on the screen. Okay, well, just like that. Might as well go up to what we talked about, go to Object and then Group. So now I don't have to just select the whole thing. The pencil stays the way that it is. Okay. One thing that I actually want to draw to your attention is the fact that when you enlarge or scale down an object, you may notice that the object changes size, but the stroke does not. Oops, lost my proportion there. So what I mean by that is if I make the pencil smaller, the lines appear to be thicker. They're not thicker. They're just, the stroke size did not adjust to the pencil size scale differential. So what I need to do for that, if I'm being real picky and I want to change that, select my object. I can still go up to the stroke and see how that changes and looks a lot better. So it was, I think, like 7 or 8 point stroke, and I've just bumped that down to a 4, and that's up here in the menu bar. And it looks a little bit better now, I think. Maybe somewhere in between, so our middle parts aren't being too exposed. So we've got something like that. And the next step I want to do is, since we're making a logo for a hypothetical publishing company, we want to add text to the outside of our logo. And in a previous lesson, we talked about how we can type on a text, on a path, on a path. So I'm going to go back up to our tools. I'm going to go to the ellipse tool, which is underneath the triangle tool. The ellipse tool is the same as the circle tool. The only difference is if you hold shift down, and it allows me to draw a perfect circle. Okay. And I just covered up my pencil, so that's not very helpful, right? So what I need to do, I want a path, which is the line, right? The path, if you want to think about it, is as if it's a line with a stroke, except the stroke part has been negated. And I want to get rid of that, so it's just a simple path. I'm going to select over here on the left-hand side, if you can see my cursor moving around. I'm going to select the fill. I'm going to empty that. I'm going to select the stroke. I'm going to empty that. So I have now both an empty stroke and an empty fill. And I can, so this is just to review a little bit. This is now a path. If you hover it over, it actually says that. It's a path which will not print and will not save. It's just an empty vessel that you can then take and turn into something else, like a circle or a shape or a line or whatever you choose to do. It can even become an erasing mark. I've used a path as an erasing element before, okay? But what we want to do is we want to add text to go around the edge of our path, and we're going to select the text tool. Actually, we don't want to use the regular type tool. We need to go down to the type on a path tool, which is underneath the text tool, type on a path tool. Now I can hover my cursor over the path tool. It gives me some generic fonts or words when I put that in there, which is slightly annoying, but you get the idea. we want to go through our many fonts that we have. And I'm not in a particularly picky mood today, so I'm going to, you can use any font you want to, by the way. I'm just going to pick one so that we can move forward here. And I certainly need to change the size of the text. As I click up on the point size, you'll see that some of the letters disappear. It's giving us generic Latin, so don't let that throw you off too much. That's what's going to be changed. But you see that the text wraps around the path naturally. And I'm not going to use very much text. So I'm going to go really big on this. I'm going to bump this up to 150. Maybe we'll see if we adjust that in a minute. And I'm going to make up a fictitious publishing company. You can do the same. I don't really care what the text says. I'm going to go with my name, last name. I'm just going to go with Davis Publishing Company. You can use your name or simply make up something. And now I can take this and rotate it to make it look more natural so that the text runs across the top of my logo. I can move it easily, and I can still go in and adjust that if I want my text to wrap all the way around. I can get it. Oh, I think I overdid it. Let's go back. So I want the space between the S and the P to vaguely match the Y and the D. And then I think it looks best if the name floats on the top of the logo. And voila. Of course, you can also, as we've talked about, switch out the stroke and the fill. And you can go in and thicken that out if you want to play around with the variety. I could add in the different color for the text. So you can have fun with it, and it doesn't really matter to me what you choose to do with the text. But I would like you to attempt to have some letters wrapping around the empty path just to give you an excuse to use the type on a path tool and the circle or ellipse tool. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. You've now created a simple but clean and nice logo, your first logo in Illustrator. Good luck with that, and if there's any issues at all, I will be glad to assist you with that. Thank you for this lesson, and we'll be talking more about Illustrator and a different project coming up soon.